I was 5 years old when I was cleaning out stables. Cleaning scrap by the time I was 6. 39 years old when I put my mind to learning tiling. Travellers as a community can work very, very hard if we're given the opportunity. It's embedded in us. People can ask, why is there so many travellers on drugs? Maybe the question should be, why do travellers need drugs to cope with the world?
My hopes and dreams was to be a world champion. You know, as a kid you think you're going to be something like that. But then I started realising when the boxing was over that there was just nothing else there. There was no opportunities, no employment, there was nothing.
Rejection, I'd say, would be a big feeling I would have gotten as a kid growing up in all areas. Don't talk to them. There's something wrong with them. They're always going to be a part of that, and that is not what we're going to accept. Fair to show your true culture. Fair to just be yourself in a community that did not accept us.
That's what travellers are in. It's a psychological prison, and we need help to get that key and open the door. Growing up, there was a lot of, I don't want to say inequality, but it was. Do you know what I mean? It was, I meant nothing and everyone else meant something. Do you know what I mean? As a kid who has that feeling inside of meaning nothing, there's no prospects in life.
I was born in Cork, and then we lived in Villa Park in Finglas till I was about 3 or 4, and then we moved to England.
My experience at schools was the teachers made us feel just as much as what the kids did. So there was a lot of bullying. And if we did try to go into the community in any shape or form, we were always rejected because of being a traveller. So straight away, I always felt like I didn't belong there.
School for me was the part where I first started breaking. And everything that I learned in school was nothing about my culture. Like, I'm Irish. My whole family's Irish, but yet we were not included in history. For me, there was no such thing as Michael. The only thing I could relate to was a traveller, and that was getting stripped off me. It was classed as dirty. There was no dirt on us, but the way that we were treated, it wasn't even the dirt on the outside that was getting us, it was the feeling of dirt inside. I look at both ways. My mother kind of put into us, at the end of the day, Michael, you're always a traveller. And in everyone else's eyes, you're always a knacker. That's the way the world is going to look at you. That's the way I grew up.
I never had a really bad experience in school in England, especially over being a traveller. That was never an issue, really. And from the age of 9 till I was 13, I know I got a really good education over there. The teachers focused on me the same way as they focused on everyone else.
I didn't get to junior cert level. I didn't get to experience what kids would have experienced in it. Straight away when I was thrown into secondary school in the first year, we were put aside and we were made feel, even in secondary school, that we wasn't worth putting the work into.
I didn't really understand why one teacher who would be from the west of Ireland pushed me a lot. He came from a traveller family, but he couldn't openly say he was a traveller. When I was coming to the end of my school and I was looking at secondary school, I went in until first year, the end of first year, and I was looking at it, I was like, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? There's no point in this. I'm not going to get a job. Do you know what I mean? No one is going to give me a job. I'm a traveller. And then after a while, as you reach 16, 17, because there's no opportunities for a traveller, there's no work. You can't walk into a place and say, oh, can I get an apprenticeship here? And you're told no. For me, it turned to drugs. Mixing with other boys from other, not even just travellers, from other estates who we kind of identified with because there was no way of getting out. Do you know what I mean? So we'd hang around together and we'd smoke hash together, and then it just kind of progressed over the years onto some of us who took every drug and any drug we could, and we didn't care.
When I was 13, my parents decided they told us we were going back to Ireland. We ended up moving to about 5 or 6 different halting sites around Dublin. And yeah, so that was it. School was out. See, what it was with me, I was a good boxer. Thinking back now, it was like a counselling session, you know, in a strange kind of way. When I was 17, I got to the junior All-Ireland finals, and I got beat. Then I said, the next year, I said, right, I'm going to win it this year. So the next year came, and I got to the final again, and I got beat. And I just got disgusted, because I don't know, I just wanted it all too quick. I thought I was going to be like a world champion. I should be definitely winning all Ireland titles tonight, you know what I mean? So I ended up just taking a break. I said, I'm going to take a break. I started realising when the boxing was over that there's just nothing else there. That's when I first started taking drugs. My first drug ever to take, ecstasy tablets, just like a little tablet, you take it and with a drink in that. Sometimes you take 3 or 4, sometimes you take 10. Sometimes you'd be up for 2 or 3 days taking them, do you know what I mean, without going to sleep. My mother kind of got sick of me and she ended up putting me out. That's when my life hit rock bottom, and it was just like the site we were in, like that was like a social exclusion site. But the site that I went out to, that was complete, total exclusion, social exclusion. And there was nothing there. The guards used to like have the site under surveillance. It's like we were like the mafia or something. And that's like 20 years ago. And I've always took drugs. I always would take a bit of cocaine or the Valium and stuff like that, you know. My sister died about 7 years ago. My sister died. She actually took an overdose of Lyrica. But so that's when I really got. Then me and my ex split up, and she went to England with my kids, you know. So my life really, I was definitely suffering with mental health.
Drugs came into my life shortly after I got married. It gave me a sense of freedom within myself. It just numbed all the childhood trauma. Addiction done to me within a short time what it might have taken a long time for other people. I ended up in prison many times. 6 kids in, 6 kids gone into the care system. And the only thing I really, really loved in this world more than anything was the kids. The barriers for a woman, a travelling woman in addiction is a lot harder than any other culture I've come across. I was the first travelling woman to ever arrive in my community that was ever known to be on heroin and every other drug. The shame that brought on me and my kids was hard enough to deal with in my own community. And I've already grown up with services and people trying to make me feel different and not accepting me for who I am or how to understand me or even try to understand me as a traveller woman. And I didn't think there was any hope. But suicide was next on the table because they had already been gone. Next thing for me was just go outside, use and be done with it. Because I just had no way out. I was trapped. That's true.
I ended up in prisons. I ended up homeless at the end of it. I was drowning even without drugs. Do you know what I mean? Even as a kid, that's the way it felt. I'm in the middle of an ocean and there's nothing here to help me. Do you know what I mean? So I turned to a drug that covered up the pain. And that went on for years. Going in to actually seek help. Do you know what I mean? Like in projects or in with doctors and stuff like that. They never understood me. And some doctors would actually say to me, oh no, you're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life. You're going to be on a clinic for the rest of your life. You're never going to get off anything. So when I did make my decision to stop taking drugs, there's a few projects that refused me. Other places I went to, they were like, oh no, we're not going to deal with you because you have anger issues. I went to a place where I just sat with a staff member and I said, look, I said 90% of what you're offering me, I said, will work. I said the other 10%, I said, I'm a traveller, I said, I need more help with. Do you know what I mean? That place, I'll give it to them. They're doing other work to kind of bring their own awareness up about traveller culture and to work with me. Do you know what I mean? And they put me out to other places that they were added to so I could go and get work tickets and stuff. And then they also directed me to college.
I was involved in criminality for years. And anyway, I was up in court and I was expecting a few years because I had a record. And someone said to me, if you go to a treatment centre, they give you a letter and it'll help you with the court case. You might not get as long, you know. So I went down to the Analytic project and I explained my situation. So they put me on this little course, like it was like a stabilisation program. So I was doing this, we were doing little groups and that. And I was actually alright. I was doing it for about maybe 2 months. The long story short, they sent me to Peter McFerry's The Lantern. And that is a trauma therapy based program. By the time I left it, I knew I wanted to change my life, you know. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't think I was going to go to college. What the real game changer was for me, I didn't realise it at the time. They offered me a recovery house in Baldoyle, a Peter McFerry house, and then from there, I went on to Coolmine. So I went to Coolmine Day program.
And it was just by word that I heard, listen, there's an interview going on over there for a treatment centre. And I went over and done that interview, and I was asked to detox in prison. So I detoxed off methadone in prison, in a cell on my own. I got dropped to the door of a treatment centre with no knowledge of a treatment centre. And maybe I was a little bit willing and a little bit open-minded. I had to be able to step in, but I was scared stepping in there. I suppose it was the first time I heard that there's a way out, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of change, and it's going to take a lot of courage and a lot of strength to walk this walk.
The last month I was in Coolmine Day programme. A place called the INOU came into us. So I went down and I went for an interview with them, and they accepted me, which was great. And the course was a level 5 in community development. 2 wonderful teachers, Michelle and Laura. One of them said to me, "Patrick, you're doing really well in here." She said, "Would you not be interested in going to college?" Just being asked that was just fascinating. It was just people in Hollywood or in the movies go to university and get degrees, or settled people, and travellers on to things like that. Especially travellers that had the life I've had, don't I mean? But I applied myself for a few colleges, but Maynooth University got back to me, and then I went for the interview, and they accepted me. It was a 3-year course, and it was a wonderful experience. I actually feel like it was a journey that I needed to go on. I needed to go on this journey because 6 years ago, I was completely lost. I just was lost, and I just didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and more than likely it was going to end bad.
I have 6 weeks left in college. I'll be finished my degree. I want to work within the community with mental health and addiction. Do you know what I mean? But it won't be just in my community, it'll be both, to kind of bridge that gap, not because one is any different than the other, but because I believe for mental health and addiction to move forward, it has to be moved forward as one.
Nearly finished Maynooth University, and I'm after applying for a master's in social policy. You know, so I'm really lucky. I feel like things fell into place for me, you know. But it's not that way for all travellers. I was a lucky one, and I believe the reason why I was so lucky is because of the good education that I got in England. So it just goes to show what can happen to a young kid if he's focused on. I'm not sure where I've seen my future. Maybe the Taoiseach or something like that.